Hello everybody and welcome back. Root Beer here with question number 19 on the 2002 Grade 8 Gauss contest. If you want a copy of this contest, feel free to click the link in the description below and you can get a copy of this contest for yourself. Question number 19. The word stop starts in the position shown in the diagram. Okay, stop right down here with the T and O on either side of the y-axis. It is then rotated by 180 degrees clockwise, although when you rotate by 180 degrees, you don't need to specify clockwise or counterclockwise. So it sort of rotates up about the origin, and then the result is then reflected in the x-axis. Which of the following represents the final image? Alright, so there's a couple ways you can go about doing this question. The first way, I would recommend when they actually give you the contest, they give it to you on this nice colored piece of paper. What you can actually do is hold that little question booklet and perform all the steps that they said, and so rotate it about the origin on the page, and then reflect it in the x-axis, so you sort of flip over the paper, and you have to hold it up to the light, I guess, but you might be able to see what happens. Now, I don't have the contest booklet, but I do have a piece of paper, so I'm going to take a Sharpie, which is perfectly allowed on the contest. I'm going to draw the picture here. X, Y, I've got my origin here, and I have S, T, Y-axis, O, P. So, I have the picture, and it represents exactly what we've got on 19. So there's 19, and here's my picture right here. Okay? So what does it say to do? Now I'm just going to hold it up and show you. So rotate about the origin 180 degrees. Now the X and the Y have come along with us, but now we know what it looks like once we've rotated. Now the X-axis is still just along here. So we want to reflect it in the X-axis, so that's just going to sort of fall down like that. And so we just read off. I can now, the page has just completely flipped, and I can read stop back here. But from the perspective we started off with, I don't know if that'll come through with the camera, but I've got a backwards P, an O, a T, and a backwards S. So that's what I want to look for in my answers. And they're down at the bottom where we started. So A is out. First of all, it doesn't have a backwards P, but second, the word is not written down at the bottom like we would expect. Here we have an upside down P, but not a backwards P. And here we have a regular P, don't have a P. Here we have a backwards P, a backwards S, and everything we want, so our answer should be E. And all those steps I did, taking a Sharpie, taking a scrap piece of paper, holding it up to the light, doing all the steps, that is allowed on the competition. If people look over at you and you're going like this with a piece of paper, they might think you're a little nutty, but you're getting the right answer and you're actually doing the steps, the physical steps that the question's asking for. Now, suppose you didn't want to do that, you didn't want to hold it up to the light, or maybe you didn't have an easy-to-handle copy of the contest, you didn't bring any scrap paper or a nice Sharpie. Well, what I would recommend then is take each of these steps that the question tells us, so rotate 180 degrees clockwise, draw that intermediate step so you can see what's going on. So we'll get a brand new piece of paper, and we'll draw our picture again. So this is how the whole thing starts. X, Y, there's our center O, S, T, O, P. So the first thing we do is rotate 180 degrees about the origin. So you'll still get your X and your Y here. They're not as important. But our S, well, he's gonna come all the way this point right here, this line right here, which let's say is facing up. He's going to rotate all the way up and be pointing down. So now we know that we'll have the P over here and the O over here. So we'll draw those in PO, and then the T will be here, and then the S will be a backwards S, like that. Well, actually, it looks like a regular S, but it's because it's backwards and upside down. Okay, and that little blue arrow actually really helped us to figure out what's going on. No reason we can't add things. So this is what happens when we rotate. So there's 180 degrees clockwise. So that was the first thing we did. Now what does the question say the next thing to do is? Next we reflect in the x-axis. Okay? So we reflect in the x-axis. So I'm going to draw in another little line. So it's going from the P over to the arrow. And if I reflect in the x-axis, oops. Why can't I draw a straight line? That's a little better. So here's our origin. Origin, x, y. So when I reflect that, the direction doesn't change. I'm still going to have an arrow. And I'm going to have the same distance here as I do here. Yeah, I just sort of flipped it all over. And so these guys come down just as well. O gets put in position, the T, and then the S. Okay? And I've kept the order the same. And the other thing that matters is sort of the height. So if we wanted to, we could draw in another arrow as well and make sure that we have reflected him properly as well. These little aids help us to make sure we're doing the right thing when we reflect. Okay? So, with this answer in place, we just compare it to all the other ones we've got, and we see that E is the only one that matches with our final answer here. So E is going to be the answer for 19. Alright. We have one more question to go. It'll be the last question in part B, and then we can move on to the really hard questions 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. But those will be in the future in the next video, question number 20 on the 2002 Gauss paper.